Welcome to City and County, the inaugural show from our new studios right here at the AHRR Network. I'm your boy, Big J. We got a great show today. One of my favorite sisters in the city, Miss Michélyn Johnson of Rise 5280 joins us. We want to definitely thank her and welcome her to the first show here in this new studio. This show is brought to you today by the People's Pickles.
People's Pickles.
Shouts out to Marcus Weaver. Pick you a peck of People's Pickles. You know what I'm saying? And get some of these premium pickles.
What did you say?
Pick a peck of People's Pickles. Don't make me say it again. So pick a peck of People's Pickles. Shouts out to Marcus Weaver and the People's Pickle people. get you a peck of these. You know what I'm saying? And shouts out many flavors. So make sure you check them out on Facebook. And they are our sponsors for today's show. So yeah, I told you, man. The first time was good, but after that we went downhill. But like I said, we have Miss Michélyn Johnson of Rise 5280 joining us. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you for the invite.
You have so many different things. We have so much to talk about with you today. But let's start with we actually met during it was a rash, I think, of shootings and things that were happening in the far northeast, and you're you're connected to MLK, Martin Luther King Early College. What is your title there? What do you do there?
So I work for the Office of Family and Community Engagement, so I'm housed in MLK. And so essentially what I do is I support multi-generational services to help families and children, more specifically juniors and seniors with college and career readiness.
Well, one of the things that I noticed that you have a real connection with the kids and the families in the community, and like I said, when we really got together, it was because it was a rash of youth violence out there. Talk about that, that relationship that you have with those kids and families, and how those things out there kind of affect you.
I do have a lot of relationships with kids. I think because of my own upbringing. I think that's one of the reasons. Well, that is the reason why I founded Rise 5280, but. Our kids don't have enough mentors. They don't have enough people to look up to, and they get lost in the cracks real quick. So working with kids and working with their families to ensure that, they're successful and they don't feel like they have to be a statistic or, follow paths of other kids or, that aren't doing well. Like, they don't have to do that. And I feel like a lot of our kids just get lost real quick.
So you do a lot of dope stuff. Out there, you are the founder of Rise 5280, and we recently, as in December, before all this kind of pandemic thing hit, took a HBCU tour.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about how you started those things, why you started those, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we did on this one.
So Rise 5280 was founded by me and my partner Tiffany. In 2016, so we both were in the Urban Leadership Foundation program with Dr. Ryan Ross, and one of the things to get out of the program was to do a community service project before you graduated. So ours was mentoring high school students, and at the end of the summer program, we took them on an HBCU tour. At that time, our first tour, we had 11 kids, and our biggest tour, we took 86 kids. Wow. And so what we found is 45 is a good number, as you see when you came on the tour. 45 is a lot, but 86 was...
Oh, I can imagine. That was great. That must have been crazy.
It was quite interesting. But yeah, so Rise 5280 came out of us being in ULF, but more specifically, like for myself, me being a youth, I got involved with gang violence, selling drugs. Got kicked out of East High School, ended up getting pregnant when I was 16. And I just feel like if I had a mentor who was there for me, that guided me in the right direction, a lot of the decisions I made, I wouldn't have done. So that's kind of why I do what I do, because I know kids need a second person to tell them, like, man, you don't got to do this. Someone just to believe in them. So essentially that's where that came from. All my family has gone to a HBCU. All my sisters, from Tuskegee to Hampton to Jackson. My parents, they met in Morehouse and Spelman. Grandparents went to Jackson, Tennessee State. So everybody is alumni from HBCU except for me. I graduated from University of Phoenix, but that's one of my biggest regrets was not going to HBCU.
I think mine too. And when you you know, you kind of mature, and I went to University of California. You know what I'm saying? We played football and we did all kinds of stuff out there. But when you talk about some of the things that you know we should have done, that's definitely one of those things.
Yeah.
Go to a HBCU, enjoy your culture, do some of those things. So you know, talk more about the tour and how you put those together. I think you did mention Tiffany, but how did you start selecting where you wanted to go?
Yeah, so essentially we started going on a tour with my partner, Blake. Blake did HBC tours, and he was out of Indy. So he would take kids from Indy and Tennessee, and I would bring kids from Denver. So it was actually, when we first started doing the tours, it was a mixture of kids from those 3 states. And then we had a tour where some kids from Kansas came, some kids from California. So we were doing this together, and our tours, we would all just meet up in Nashville, and from Nashville we would go. So the schools are just generally, we just try to go to colleges or universities that we haven't been to. So we go to 6 to 8 different schools every trip. Okay. But the bigger schools we will visit again like another year or whatever, but we typically try to just go to whatever school we haven't been to. And
so the kids that you take, how do they kind of qualify to go on those trips? You know, how are they selected? You know, how do you do that process?
There's no selection. Like, they want to come, they can come. If they can pay it or help raise money, or if we get sponsors for them. I don't have a criteria, because my goal is to get our kids out of this state so they can see schools that are meant for them, that are made for them. If I put a criteria on these tours, a lot of kids are going to miss out. Right. And for me, I'd rather have those kids who, you know, might be falling through the cracks or might not know what they want to do, or, you know, this could be a big decision maker for them if they go on the tour and they see something differently, which we've seen a lot in a lot of our kids. They go on the tour and they do a whole 360 in what they want to do in life.
Well, I think you're mentioning, I think the main point is like getting our kids to see something different. You know, I think we all get caught in this box. Yeah. And, you know, we are in the box state. You know what I'm saying? We all get caught in this box, and we don't want to leave, or we want to leave, but we don't know how. You know, we don't know how, or we're scared to do it. And I think that's the most important thing, because if you show some of these kids something different, they'll kind of gravitate to it. I tell kids every day, you know, use your smartphone to visit somewhere different in the world every day. Yeah. Just Google somewhere different. Yep. And eventually you're going to see that. And so I think, especially with what you do, and me being able to tag along last time you went on one, and just seeing the experiences, you know, I mean, and it's not just about you know, the schools. I mean, we went to a plantation. Yeah. And so talk a little bit about you know, your planning and what goes into some of those things.
So the tours, we really focus on exposing our kids to the HBCUs, as well as that their culture. So knowing where they came from. So there's always some sort of cultural experience, whether it's going to a museum or who's your friend? Sorry. This last fall we took them to the Bayou Classic, so it was amazing. So they got to see the game, they went to the Battle of the Bands, then we took them to the Laura Plantation, and just that weekend alone was mind blowing for the kids. And
it was mind blowing for me, and I got to, like I said, I got to go on this last one, and then just getting off the plane and headed to the Bayou Classic, and then seeing one of the most iconic events in our culture here in this country, and how we kind of celebrated, and the bands and the pageantry and behind it. I mean, just the entire experience, and I mean that right there is enough for those kids. But then you're talking about what was it, 3 more states and then 6 more schools or something like that, and just showing those kids you know, that experience. And this is what you can experience at an HBCU is one of the most amazing things that I went and able to experience, and those kids to see those things and see those faces and them to I think it's really important when you work in a field like ours, is we don't get to see kids with looks on their faces like they're supposed to look, like 16, 17, 14, 15-year-old kids. They always have a hardened look or something. And on these tours, the one I went on, I was actually able to see kids be kids. Right. You know
That's what I like. They don't have to put on this hard, like, whatever you want to call it, up front. You know what I'm saying? Like, they actually are able just to be themselves and enjoy the moment and ask questions and understand and just like have pure fun. Like they laughed, they giggled, they met new people because they all come from different walks of life, and that's the biggest part for us. That's one of the reasons why I liked when we did the tours with other states, because they got to meet other people and understand their culture and background too.
But still, the thing is on a smaller scale is that they're meeting kids from different neighborhoods.
True, and that's what they need.
And I think even more important than all the other things that the trip represents is that some of these kids know, a lot of our kids know each other. You know, and you might know a kid who got beef with this crew, and a kid that got beef, and they go on this tour, and it's just a totally different thing. It's a totally different experience. They're learning something. They're being around their peers. They're kind of seeing what they can be if they take school seriously. So
and they got a room together for a whole week, get to know each other,
eat at a buffet.
You
know what I'm saying? It's just the whole experience is super dope for some of our kids. So how do kids get involved and kind of give some more information about it?
So right now, a lot of how people are finding out about us is word of mouth, like Facebook, other kids that have gone and told their friends. I hate that the pandemic hit right before we were supposed to do our spring tour, because we were going to go to 8 different colleges. We had a whole thing planned out for them. We were going to the Trap Museum. We were taking them everywhere. And so unfortunately at this point it's on hold. It's definitely not canceled, just on hold until, time allows. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know, what tours will look like at the schools. And I definitely know that we're not going to be able to take 45 kids at one time. We're going to have to
always something. That's just unfortunate because it was 45 faces, and seeing some of those pictures. Like we took pictures at every university that we was at, and we all had. And it's not just the tours, and it's not just the places that these kids go, but you give kids, T-shirts that we all are all in, and every day we all are on the same team. No matter what neighborhood we were from, what school we go to, we were all in the same thing and looking like the same people. So it's just a super, super dope experience, man. And going forward, like you said, with we really don't know what's going to happen. You plan to continue the tours?
Oh, absolutely. I'm hoping things get back to normal, because my vision was to increase the tours because the demand. So instead of doing 2, trying to do 4 tours a year. But right now, since we're in this space, I've just been working on trying to find funding, because we're not funded. We have, private sponsors here and there, but the program is not fully funded at all. So during this time of just being at home, stay at home, we're just looking for funding and, strengthening our program, because we want it to be more of a year round and just growing it. So that's what's been happening behind the scenes while everyone's at home.
Now I know we talked about your tours. Is anything else on the agenda of Rise 5280? In terms of something like that, or something else that you're going to do?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to speak on it yet, because I got some really dope stuff coming up for our athletes.
Okay.
In regards to HBCUs, but just know we got something dope for all our athletes who are interested in HBCUs, so that's on the lookout. But otherwise, it's just, creating our programming and making sure that we are able to, expand and touch as many kids as we can throughout the whole year.
Well, we're sitting here, City and County, your boy Big J. Like I said, one of the dopest sisters in the city, Miss Michélyn Johnson, talking about HBCU tours, Rise 5280. We're going to come back, talk a little youth violence, and how that affects her at school and some of the other things she does out in the far northeast. Like I said, City and County, your boy Big J, sponsored by the People's Pickles. Make sure you get a peck of these pickles. They're delicious. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to City and County. It's your boy Big J. Sitting here having this dope discussion with Michélyn Johnson from Rise 5280 as she spills her water everywhere.
It's a little sweaty.
Definitely. I asked her what she wanted today, and she was like, "Just give me some water." A lot of people are like, "Hey man, I need a cocktail or something like that," but it's, she just needed a little bit of water. So,
Nope, that's my drink.
like I said in the first segment, we kind of met on some tragic stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was just like a rash of shootings in the far northeast and in Montbello. And you, like I said, you have developed real relationships with some of these families and kids out there. And you yourself, being from Park Hill and kind of living a life.
Yeah.
And change his life and being somebody better. How do you approach that in kids? I mean, when you see a kid maybe starting to stumble down that path, how do you, intervene in that journey that kid is trying to take?
I mean, it's just having real conversations with them, and just sometimes they just impulsively think. Like something just happens and they just want to just go. They don't even think about the consequences. They don't think about any of that. So sometimes it's just like just having those conversations like, listen, I know this might happen or this might have happened, but what's going to happen when you retaliate? You don't know what's going to happen. Like, you legit could lose your life. You can take someone's life that in turns make you lose your life to the system. Like, is that what you really want?
Right. It's a different thing because I think these kids, and I had a homie tell me, it's 20 to 30 seconds can give you life in jail, just those 20 to 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. So you need to take 20 to 30 seconds before you make a 20 to 30 second decision. Yep. You understand what I'm saying? So I thought that was a very, very powerful thing when I heard that, and just kind of dealing with some of the kids that, I come across that are in facilities that are that I wish could have that 20 to 30 seconds back. That
they wish
that
too.
They're you know what I'm saying? So I mean, how do you get that point across to some of these kids? I mean, because in my experience, and it's hard for me to say, is that I have a old phrase, and it's a Chinese slogan that I tell kids, is that if you want to know what's on the road ahead, ask a man that's walking back.
Right.
But some of those kids try to walk around you up that path. So I mean, for more of those hardcore cases, how do you handle those things? I mean, because like I said, you've seen the life firsthand, and so on those kids, what do you do to try to prevent those kids?
You legit just can't give up. Like, you can't. Like, the conversations are endless. You just have to show them you love them. Show their parents you love them. Like, that's all they want. They want love, and then give them different opportunities. Like how you gave Sam an opportunity. Give them an opportunity to do something different in their life. Like, you can't tell a kid what they're doing wrong without giving them another option or something else to do with their life. Like, you can't say, hey, you can't do this, or you go off and beat this person up or kill this person. This is what's gonna happen. They're like, okay, and I know this, but you're not giving them an option. You're just talking down on them. So that's not what I do. Like, I legit. That's what Rise is for. Like, we want you to be leaders in the community. We want you to give back. We want you to mentor. We want you to be successful in whatever that looks like for you. Because everybody has a dream. Like, it's not to be out here in the streets.
But you come at them at an angle where it's like, it's non-judgmental.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, I understand what you're going through because I went through it. Yeah, and I think that's hugely important when you talk about dealing with a lot of youth in our community, because they're seeing and doing things right now that we were doing at 19 and 20, and it seems like these kids are a lot more willing to be violent.
Oh yeah, they are. With no regards to life.
One of the things that recently I've been dealing with is a self-care thing. You know what I'm saying? And I had a little hospital scare. So how do you kind of disconnect from because like I said, you connect with these kids, and sometimes these kids make bad decisions or get caught up in things that they shouldn't. How do you kind of separate from that thing and go home, because you have a beautiful family?
Thank you.
And how do you kind of stop at the door and then walk in the house and say, hey, I'm just gonna be mom, and not think about some of the things that I had to do today?
I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't. There's no turning it off. Like, this is just me and my life, and my kids know it, that's their life too. Like, our house, all their friends come over. Our house is like the safe house. Whoever want to come over, they can come over. So there's no turning it off. I think like the self-care piece, my daughter and I, we started working back out with Jace, which is nice. And then I think just being around my friends, like I have a regular bunch of friends who come over every weekend, and that's family for me. And I'm able to just sit, talk, laugh, vent, whatever that looks like. So really, it's just my friendships is my way out, but it's not. It's no turning it off.
Right, and I struggle with that because people say, well, you have to leave it where you leave it. But sometimes when I see and experience some of the things that we do in what we do, it's like there's no way you can shut that off.
But
There's
those
no
are the
way
same people who aren't doing what we're doing, though.
Right.
Like you legit, those are the people. Like they genuinely care about your health, because if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take care of everybody else. But you can't be missing in action either, because it's happening 24/7.
Right.
So there's
every day.
No real way to turn stuff off.
So we talked about your connection to kids in school, how you do some of those things, but how do you look at the performance of the Denver public schools? Because not only are you involved in other kids' lives, your kids go to those schools, right? Mm-hmm. Out in the far northeast, even I think your school, right?
Yeah, my daughter and my brother go to my school,
and so. I mean, it's just extra important to you. So it's like every day you're a mom, you're a sister at that school, but you're also involved in everything that you have to be, and you're still running Rise 5280. So how do you perceive or what's your perception of the Denver Public Schools right now? How they're handling things, what our kids are kind of lacking. Like, give me your overall view of what our kids need.
I mean, honestly, that's tough because our kids needed a lot when they were in school.
Right.
Like, we were already, in a space of being disadvantaged and falling in between, the education gap. Like, we were.
You see it firsthand.
Right.
Like, you're there firsthand. You can kind of see our kids like starting at the line, and then they shoot the gun to go, and then. We take 2 steps and other communities are taking 4 and 5 ahead of ours.
And it's just real. The white communities are getting better education. They have better resources, and our kids are just barely making it. So now going into virtual learning, it's just like, damn, man, we about to take 20 steps back. And it's unfortunate because I think what sucks is our families in particular, like we work. So there's this, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for, but I hate when people try to say the black family is not in the schools, or the black, they don't show up to parent teacher conferences, or they're not involved in their kids' lives, which is not true.
Right.
Like, we're very involved, but the problem is we have to work harder than our white counterparts to get to certain spaces in life. So yeah, we might be working 2-3 jobs, but our kids are always going to be taken care of, but we just can't be in all those spaces. So
you just bring up a very good, point about us being connected to schools. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we've been talking about, how we met and our connection and what we've been dealing with in terms of school shootings and things like that. The one thing is that I wanted to ask you, in terms of that, is that how, when these things happen at school, how come our representation of parents and things, for the most part, is so low when these things are, and we're talking about the safety of our children? How come we aren't better as a community in terms of being involved in the school, being involved in parent-teacher conferences, being involved in some of the things that just the basic needs for some of our schools, and we're just letting things kind of...
It's just the space that we're in as a black community. Like, we don't get the same job opportunities. Right. We don't get the same, resources. We're getting kicked out of our communities because most of us aren't owning homes. Like, we have a lot of work to do, and unfortunately it does take a toll on us showing up in the schools, but that doesn't mean we're not showing up for our kids. You know what I mean?
And I agree with you, but I see a lot of parents doing what they can, but then again, I see a lot of the kids that I'm struggling with is that, they're missing that. That parent at home, and be it even one parent.
Right.
They're missing that.
But that's where we have to change the narrative and teach our kids the reasoning why our parents are working so hard, and how can we set them up to understand, you know, you got to go to school, you got to get a trade, you got to get a college degree, whatever that looks like, because you're going to do better. Like, you need to start saving now for your retirement. You need to start working on your credit score so you can buy the minute you're, 18, 20, whatever. Like, we got to teach them to buy the block back. Like, we have to do that because their parents are working so hard. Like, it takes a true village for us to get out of what we're in, that we've been in for forever. 400 or 500 years. We just have to start doing things differently, and teaching our kids the things that our schools are not teaching them. So that's kind of what RISE does. Like, we teach them about financial literacy. We teach them about the power of buying, what it means to be in a community and keep the community. Like, I wish my mom never sold our home in Park Hill. I don't even know when I'm going to be able to go back now. This is out my price range. But
at least 20 years. Right?
Man, no, I'm speaking it to existence. I'm gonna get a house back in Park Hill one day.
We all need to be back.
Yeah, but we gotta teach our kids. We gotta give them the tools to go buy them houses back in Park Hill on the east side, and not get us all of us pushed into Green Valley, and the next thing you know, they're gonna come and take all the and then what? So we just have to change the narratives as community leaders and educators to help, bring our community back, because, parents at this point, they working hard to keep their households together while we need to just teach.
Just scratching and surviving for real.
Yep.
Sitting here talking to Michélyn Johnson on City and County. It's your boy, Big J. We're going to take a quick break. After the break, I'm going to ask Michélyn about COVID and the effect on our community and our kids and our schools and going forward, what it just might look like. Stay tuned. Welcome back to City and County with your boy Big J, sponsored by the People's Pickles. Get you a pack of People's Pickles in several delicious flavors. Check them out on Facebook. I said it again without tripping me up. So definitely shouts out to my boy Marcus Weaver, who does so much in the community.
He does. He supports RISE.
Oh yeah,
he's an avid supporter of RISE.
And if you haven't had that pickle, man, like real talk, like it'll change your situation.
Change your life.
It will. I mean, they're cut differently. They're it's quality ingredients, and it's a community organization, and he's putting this together for children too. So man, shouts out to Marcus Weaver and the People's Pickles. Before the break, we talked about schools and everywhere from youth violence to how do we reach some of these kids that that we see are affected by some of the things that we saw growing up, and some of the obstacles that they go through. Now, one thing we're just gonna add to that is COVID.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, you're black. if before anything else. And one thing that they asked me about COVID is just one extra obstacle that our people got to go through, right? When you talk about the judicial system and housing and everything else that we have to face on a daily basis, COVID is just another obstacle that we have to go through. So I think part of our not taking it serious wasn't us not taking it serious. It was just like, hey, this is some other shit that we got to deal with.
Right.
You know, so let's figure this out. And the fact that now we know it's kind of targeting us and we're being affected by it, you know, at horrifying rates, you know, then the conversation can be, you know, we can go you know, down several different roads for this. But let's talk about school. You know, I mean, our schools are you know, suffering as is. And you said before the break that, you know, this thing and this online thing can put our kids 20 years back. Yeah. So what would you like to see? I mean, this is a chance for us to kind of start fresh and make sure that our kids are accounted for and everything. So what would you like to see going forward?
I don't know, to tell you the truth, because this is a new space. Like, this is a new space for us to teach our kids at home, and for those who've been blessed like myself to be able to work at home.
Right.
Some parents can't work at home. They're still working, and then they have to rely on their kids to log on, do the work. It's just a whole other discipline that we have to put our kids through, and it's a lot. So I don't know what that's going to look like.
I mean, you just talk about, you know, essential people and everything that we have to deal with on top of making sure that our kids that have to stay at home now make sure they log onto the computer and not just get on social media
or not do anything or be in the streets, because the violence hasn't stopped.
No,
it just because COVID's around, it hasn't stopped. Shit still happens. Kids are still getting killed. People are still getting killed in rapid numbers, and it's just crazy. So it's like, and that's just that whole, you know, social economic piece. Like, we are at a whole disadvantage because a lot of you know, white families, one parent can go work and the other one can stay home. You know what I mean? A lot of our families, you know, sometimes it's just one parent, you know? So that piece sucks too. So it really is like, if you have the capacity, like it takes a village. So if you have the capacity to help a neighbor or help a friend, like, you know, their situation, you know that they have to work, they got kids at home.
Make sure the kids logged on.
Yeah, see, if they can come over for a couple hours, or if you can go check on them, like, we all have to do our part. At the end of the day, like, this is not a me mindset. Like, we have to, in order for us to do better, we got to be better. Right. And I don't know what that's going to look like for school. And I'm able to be at home, and I still see my kids like, damn, man, this sucks.
Right.
Like,
it's not the same because, you know, the social interaction is not the same. You know, and I think that's a huge part of school is the, you know, social. You get to see your friends and be around and that whole thing. So, and then a lot of our kids don't have, you know, internet or even computers in some of these areas, you know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, it was nice that DPS was able to get kids, you know, Wi-Fi, computers. My school, like Grayson, she made sure arts, made sure all the kids got arts. Man, Grayson's dope. I really think she should be like a trainer of all principals, because this lady right here, she cares. She cares about family. She cares about community. She puts things in place. She even teaches, like, you come to trainings with our teachers so they understand what gang life is, understand, like, what it looks like when something's going to go down in the school, like teaching our teachers, you know, what it means to teach our kids. How
important is that to you?
That's super important.
And especially in our community.
How
important is that, having that kind of person in the classroom? And she's a leader. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So how important is that to have someone who can recognize, you know, drama and trouble coming before it comes, implement a plan and then execute it?
Yeah, it's super important because teaching's a calling. Like, it's not something you can just go do. And we don't have enough real teachers that really care about our kids and really, you know, genuinely, like, text them or call. Like, Miss Went, who works up there, she's dope. Like, she's always calling and checking on my brother, or calling me to say, hey, just so you know, he hasn't done this yet. I don't know what he told you, but some teachers won't even do that. They'll
And I've seen how
let it go.
you've interacted with your brother.
Yeah.
And it's dope. Like, you don't play. Like, this has to be done and quit playing around.
Yeah.
And I think, and especially with some of the families I deal with, we don't necessarily have that kind of discipline.
No.
These kids are able to do some different things these days.
Yeah.
And get away from some different things that in my generation, it wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened. No. But yeah, it's Lord, it's a struggle. But I think, as we continue to go through these experiences and just understand that we're all in a fight together.
Yes.
Even the adults, like I know, even in our own spaces, we all might not get along, but we all work together. But we have to also realize that our kids are watching us too.
Right.
So as adults, if we're fighting back and forth or on Facebook trying to be an activist but calling people this and that, and these kids got Facebook, they see everything you're doing. They see everything you're doing. So you can't sit up there and be for community and tear community down. You just can't do that.
Right.
That shit can't ride at all. Right. So like we all got to do better. We all got to love on each other. Our community, we're, like you said, even with COVID, we're the number one race getting dying from COVID. At first it was a joke, like black people can't get COVID. We're not getting COVID.
We are getting it.
We are
the only ones getting it. Seems like. So I'm sitting here talking to Michélyn Johnson, Rise 5280, Martin Luther King, early college, just community, just everything. And one thing, kind of the theme that I've gotten kind of from you throughout this interview is the importance of showing what is important to these kids. Mm-hmm. And I think you do a great job of that too, because not only in your work, but when we talk about your family life. Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys have a beautiful family, as I said. And I think it's like, when you talk about black as fuck, that kind of family, it's exactly what y'all are.
I swear
and you and your husband came in before the show, you got the same matching jackets on, and I can see...
I got dressed first.
I watch that show all the time, and I can see like there's a correlation, because y'all got 6 kids, and I mean, I can see the characters. I see your daughter online, and some of the things she be doing.
Everybody who comes to our house, people are like, I don't understand why y'all don't have a TV show. I'm like, we should have a Johnson's Chronicles. Like, it goes down in that house. I just be sitting there like, I swear, between Black as Fuck and Black-ish, someone is taking our content and putting it out there.
Because I can see it, man. I can see Midas, and he's like the dad, and he's just like, can I have something for me finally, just myself? And I can see you, just kind of doing your thing with a glass of wine and making sure you're quarterbacking the whole situation. And it's funny that we talk about that, but the importance of that is that's a very good example for our kids to follow. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? That's, hey, look at Miss Johnson and Mr. Johnson. They're both in the schools. They're both doing their thing in the community. They both have a civic responsibility, but they also are taking care of their families. You know what I'm saying? And I think just me being raised, I had a home just like that too. So I think that's a huge part of it too. Now the part that's kind of strange is that there's so little examples of that kind of family today. Because families are different, and they're made up of all kinds of things. So how can we, that come from those traditional families that are so successful like yours, and I might have lived in, and that, the values that come through those things, how can we
bring that back,
but help those kind of families that don't have those roles, the traditional roles like that anymore, like the mom and dad. Maybe there's 2 moms. Maybe there's 2 dads. Maybe there's just a single parent. Maybe there's just big brother taking care of everybody. Again, how can we get those roles? How can we teach that to these kids? That's
what we do. We just have to be examples. Like I said, even on Facebook, be an example. Because again, you can't be a man and wife, but you the man, you in community calling bitches.
Right.
Like, you can't do that.
Right.
We just have to be examples, and like I'm gonna keep going back to it takes a village. Like, I'm gonna be everybody's auntie and mama. That's just what I am. Like, as long as we're showing up to our kids and we're showing them what it means to be there for people, the household dynamic is always gonna be different. There's no real what is the what life should be. It's just how are we gonna support each other and make sure our kids are good. Like, there's no. It gets different every day, like you said. There's 2 moms, 2 dads. There's 1 parent. There's 2 parents. So I think it's just making sure that we make sure our kids are good and they got the resources they need. And
we got about 5 minutes left. And like I said, we've covered a lot of what you do and your family and some of the things that you see in the community. 2020 and everything that we've gone through.
Throw the whole 2020
this
away.
year. What do you want your community to look like 2021?
2021. I just want kids to be able to be kids. I don't even like my kids playing outside anymore because I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't. But I just want kids to be kids. I want them to be able to go play football, go play basketball, all these things. Be able to go on college tours without it being an expense that they have to give up. Like I want them to be able to go for free. I want us to be able to come out of this education gap and we're just smart as fuck, whatever you want to say. I just really want our community to be a community. I want the violence to end. I just don't understand. Like, I know I've been in that space. Like, you have a lot you can lose, but then, your pride is another thing. But I really want our kids to understand that, man, life is everything. Life is everything. And these little beefs with adults, kids, all that, it's not worth it. I just want people to love, and I want to have family barbecues at City Park again. I just want to,
and I agree with you. I want 2021 to look totally different than 2019 and 2018 and 2017. I want 2021 to look like a beginning. The origin of a new Black era, a new Black community. For not only just this community here in Denver, but across the nation. Absolutely. Because we can't just have something here and think it can be successful. We have to have it everywhere. We have to galvanize as one Black community. And that's what I want it to look like for 2021. Yeah. Just something totally, the start of something totally different. Yep. And I think we have to start it in the home. And give these kids and everything you said. And I'll go back to something you said, is that we don't give these kids enough love. Yeah. A lot of kids that I deal with just need somebody to really just give a fuck. Like, that's true. And it's just, people ask me why or how that I've had some of the success that I've had with kids, but I don't think I've done anything different but just say, hey, I'm gonna be here for you. Yeah, that's all we gotta do. Regardless of what you go through and what you do. I'm going to take steps back with you. And that was part of Sam's thing, is like, he would go 5 steps forward, but then he would mess up. Yeah. And then, and I think in his life, and a lot of these kids' lives, I think they're expecting that when they do mess up, people jump off that boat with them. But if you stick with them and are consistent, I think they'll be consistent with change. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, before we go, give me your 5 top female rappers. 5? 5 top female rappers.
I can't even think about that right now.
It's tough. It's tough. Can't put Doja Cat up there.
Absolutely not.
I just found out about that. Like, I was like, what?
I halfway read into it. I didn't really read into it.
Isn't she Puerto Rican?
I don't know what she's mixed. No, I think they said she's Black and white.
Yeah, but she was like, she don't like Black people.
Well, the Black people still gonna support her, so whatever. Right. People. So top 5, I can't even think of it.
And it can be anybody. So
my daughter, she's my number 1.
Right. I think she's like the best. She might be. So I see her videos when she was like the what was that? The Bad Girls Club.
Oh God.
I was like, man.
Well, that one. So that's Maria. She's just an actress. So that's the basketball player. Maya is the 9-year-old. She raps, she sings, so she's my number 1.
Yeah, I saw that one. Saw her.
She's my number 1. I don't know. I like Foxy Brown. I don't want people to be sleeping on her, but I liked Foxy Brown back in the day. Oh, Lil' Kim, Queen Latifah. Okay. I guess now. I like Cardi B. I've always been a Cardi B fan though. Okay. Before Cardi B wasn't anything. I guess that's it for me.
That's your 5?
It's really just my daughter. She's gonna change the game. I don't care. I'm speaking that into existence.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of support.
She's gonna change the game.
That's the kind of support that parents need to give their kids, so that they can dream again. Because I think that's part of it, man. And our kids don't even dream. They don't think they can be anything but what they see. Right. And I think with you support that, and once you get that support, And I think on any level, a child is going to definitely change.
Yep.
So, my top 5 is MC Light,
Oh, yep.
Latifah, Moni Love, Boss. Remember the one that used to wear those? Yeah, and Little Kim.
Yeah.
Little Kim. So we want to thank everybody for joining us right here.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me.
On
the new studio.
Oh,
it's nice.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Shouts out to Damo and Tux and our network putting this thing together, man. You guys got to see there's a lot of big things going on. Definitely stay tuned. We got more City and County with Big J, more guests, more big names. If you're looking to sponsor the show, definitely give us a call. Contact us. Shouts out to the People's Pickles and Marcus Weaver for being this week's sponsor and providing some of these delicious delicious People's Pickles. There's too many P's. I'm gonna bite my tongue.
Pickle from Marcus.
Pick a peck of People's Pickles and some of these premium pickles. Check them out on Facebook. Thanks, Marcus Weaver and the People's Pickles. I'll holler at y'all next week. This is City and County with Big J. We'll check y'all out.